Right, we finally have a name.
The Saturated Industry Podcast.
I'm never going to remember it for some reason. Saturated Industry Podcast, Iron Man 2. We just watched it several hours ago. We couldn't get rid of our friends. So, what did you think?
Again, it held up better than I remembered it. Like, looking back, I was like, oh, this is like not one of the good ones. It was like a middling movie. But overall, I enjoyed it again. I thought maybe in the middle it had a bit of a lull, but the more I think about it, maybe it's because it's meant to have a lull, so that you see Tony Stark like at his lowest, or well, not his lowest in his overall act, but lowest in this movie. And yeah, overall I really enjoyed it. You?
Yeah, the lull I think was just character progression, and where we're used to. That's the thing. At the time, there was nothing to base it on, right?
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, everybody hated Iron Man 2. I guess because it wasn't Iron Man 1. Though, I don't really... Like, I think they're equally good movies. And the lull in the middle, like, where there was just a kind of a long stretch, and an abnormally long stretch for a Marvel movie of no action, was like him discovering a lot of things about himself. One, that he's, like, got to do something about his self-destructive tendencies. Two, that his daddy issues might be coming from... maybe he doesn't fully understand his relationship with his father, because he has this image of his father as a sort of distant, not like malevolent, but certainly kind of benign in his life, like didn't really seem to want to have anything to do with him person, whereas his father obviously didn't see it that way. Like, his father was actually trying to build something that he, in his own mind, had already realized he would never be able to complete, and wanted to bequeath it to his son. Like,
I'm making this for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm kind of building something, and I know that like, basically, if you think about it, Howard Stark's life's work, he knew he wouldn't be able to complete it, and rather than be an egomaniac about it, he just left it for his son, and like made sure that only Tony would be able to finish this, because he didn't just like leave the schematics in and put them in a safe somewhere where from the last movie would have found them. Jeff Bridges. Obadiah
Stane.
Just left them somewhere where Obadiah would discover them. He built it into the layout of the World Fair, the Stark Expo thing, because only Tony would have enough of an ego to realize that this huge thing might actually just be a microcosm, you know, like. But yes, and so that lull was all, and the same. Like, also they dealt with his self-destruction, his relationship with his father, and his relationship with Pepper.
That shines in this movie. Yeah,
really, and like the whole, just like the scene is like something out of a rom-com, where he shows up to her office, that used to be his office, bringing her strawberries that she's allergic to, gets like frustrated by the ridiculous physics contraption on her desk, and they just have this like really, you know, witty but also kind of scathing banter between each other.
Yeah, good back and forth.
Yeah, and then that's also in his office where he comes across the model for the expo, which is actually the model of the atom. Like, it's a very dense. There's actually a lot going on in this movie that I don't think maybe like audiences in 2000, whatever this was, when they saw it for the first time, realized how much was in here, because everything you need to know about Tony Stark, you could not watch any of the other Iron Man movies or any of the Avenger movies. You could watch this movie and then go straight to Civil War and be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I can see the arc. Like, I can see him going from this movie directly to Civil War. Like, that makes sense for his character, that he would end up there. Even more so than the first movie, because in this movie is where he sort of starts to realize he needs to take personal responsibility on a macro scale. Like, not just, I have to put on a suit and save everybody. No, I have to sort of recognize the impact of what I'm doing, and that's what I like. Like, the movie opens with the Stark Expo.
Well, it opens with the making of the arc reactor, sort of an homage to the first movie. Yeah, where Vanko is like builds an arc reactor in basically a cave. In a cave with a box of scraps.
Exactly.
He does that, and like he makes his own arc reactor. He's got the plans though that his dad worked on, because his dad and Howard
but he's
Stark.
still like. Okay, two questions. One, if he always had these plans, why did he only just decide today? I guess the day his father died or whatever.
His father died, yeah.
But like, anyway, why did he decide to build it today? And number two, is it somehow easier to build arc reactors in suboptimal conditions? Is it easier to like...
Seeing two movies, yes, that seems to be the case.
It's like like Obadiah Stane had a whole team of scientists with all the resources in the world trying to work on this.
But they weren't Tony Stark.
And they weren't, you know, trapped in a cave with shrapnel in their chests, or they weren't a vindictive Russian sun scientist. I'm like, I don't know about you. Like, I don't know how you feel about your father. I like my dad. He's a good guy. He took care of me. I feel like he's like he's a good model for what a man should be. But like, if he has enemies, like, or if like
on a rampage.
Like, if like, for example, if my dad at some point in his life was like the CEO of a business, and his business partner, like, you know, cut him out of it using some conniving, and there was no like grey area. This guy was just an evil bastard, and he cut my dad out, and suddenly my family went from being, you know, nouveau riche to middle class, and I just had to live with that my whole life. I still don't think I would try and murder that man's son.
Really? You don't think you wouldn't build a sort of crazy whip suit powered by arc energy and go and hunt down that man's son and kill him?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a cave and a box of scraps handy.
It is a nice scene though, because it is very reminiscent of the first movie. You even have the blacksmithing scene where Ivan Vanko's
unnecessarily hammering something.
Something
that
that's
he's
a
pulled out of a
critical
smelting
component
pot
to making arc reactors.
It's critical that you make arc reactors in a wife beater.
Yeah.
But that's where we meet Mickey Rourke's Ivan Vanko, and like everybody hated Mickey Rourke. Everybody thinks but I remember like when Iron Man 2 came out that everybody laughed about it. Like he's just such a silly, over the top character. To me, like I've only seen Mickey Rourke in a few things, and the only thing that really springs to mind when I think about him is The Wrestler, which is not too similar to this, but it's still just a case of Mickey Rourke being a weird looking guy playing a strange character and taking it really seriously.
Yeah, it seems like he took the dramatic sides of it really seriously.
But the thing is, I mean, if you're Mickey Rourke, right, and somebody hands you a script to Iron Man 2, and you play a Russian, like a middle-aged Russian man who, because of something bad that happened to his father, had to grow up in the actual gulag in Siberia, and on his father's deathbed decided that he was going to take revenge on his father's behalf by building this technology that he and his father, like that his father and his father's partner were supposed to build together, but he got cut out of it and got deported during like the what is it? You know, that era, the Cold War era. Like, so you're reading all of this, and then he like decides to build this machine that was his father's legacy and use it to take down the man take down the son of the man who was responsible. Like, you know, sins of the father. Like, that's sins of the father. Like, this script is very serious.
Yeah.
Like, when you see it on screen and he's got these whips and shit, like, yeah, that's silly. But if you're just reading the words, I can totally see where Mickey Rourke would read this and go, yeah, okay, like this guy is a serious guy.
Yeah.
Like and not only, it's not like he's gonna kill this guy. He wants to kill the guy in a public place because they make a point of him getting the tickets to the Monaco race.
Yeah. He wants to destroy his legacy.
Yeah.
Not just kill him. He wants to do what Stark
did to the Vankos.
To the Vankos. Yeah.
So I liked his performance, and especially like the second half of the movie where he's sort of the hostage of Justin Hammer, and he's like playing dumb, but he's the smartest guy in the room. Like, I really liked it, and it's as always, like, the ending was, I'm not really sure, but anyway, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. So the first scene after that is the Stark Expo, and I really like the Stark Expo for the simple fact that the Stark Expo is essentially Iron Man, like Tony Stark, doing what everybody says Batman ought to do all the time. He's like, use your phenomenal unlimited wealth to actually enact social good. Like, not just spend it on toys that you can use to beat up criminals, but like invest that money into other people's ideas to make the world a better place. Which is like, it's an idea that he's taken from his father and sort of reinvigorated.
And it's like a loss leader for the company. Pepper says later on that it's not going to make them any money. Yeah,
and she claims that he's just doing it for prestige. And like, obviously, there's everything Tony Stark does, a little bit is for prestige. But I firmly believe, and I think his arc proves that this is sort of the kernel of his altruism. Like, right here is the inspiration for what later on in Civil War he like funds all of the MIT graduating classes projects or something like that. Like, this is something he actually does believe in, even though it's really hard to determine whether Tony Stark actually ever believes in anything.
Yeah, that's true.
But I really feel like this, you know, like maybe we're giving the screenwriters too much credit, but I honestly believe something the Marvel Universe has always had is consistency of character. Like, maybe not with all the ancillary characters, but definitely with the heroes. They always have very specific character traits, and those remain adamant. And then they have arcs, and they change and they grow. But like, I can't think of an example of a Marvel hero doing something like drastically out of character.
Yeah, not so far anyway. Not like off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
Like, they do things that surprise us and stuff. I'm not saying that the movies are mediocre or anything, but it's just like, It always feels like what any character is doing, if you've watched all the movies leading up to that movie, something in those previous movies will inform the decisions this character is now making, you know? And it's like, I mean, we haven't gotten to them yet, but it's the same in the Captain America movies. Basically, Bucky's his last fucking... It's all he has left, you know? They took his time away from him, they took Peggy away from him. All he's got left is Bucky, and he knows Bucky, and he knows what's right. All he's got is left is Bucky and his principles, and he's from a time when principles actually meant something, and we're in a time when Donald Trump is president of the United States. So, like, it completely makes sense, everything he's doing. And I would say the same is true of Tony. To some extent, the same is true of Thor. Thor is kind of a weirdness.
Weird, yeah.
But definitely Tony, like, obviously Tony and Steve are like they're the pillars. Like they are the Avengers, the two of them.
Foil for each other as well.
And of all the characters and all, like, they get the most growth, like the most they get the most examination.
Yeah.
And I really feel like Tony Stark, like everyone, when you think of Tony Stark, you think of Iron Man, you think of like this kind of glib, flippant, devil-may-care guy, but underneath it, like, it's bluster underneath it, and this movie really shows it. Like,
this whole opening scene, that's what I took away from the Stark Expo as well. It's like an allegory for Tony Stark himself. He's like big and blustery on the outside. Look at me, I'm Iron Man. And then he goes backstage and he like takes his reading and he's literally dying and he doesn't know what to do and he's scared.
Yeah. And
he doesn't tell anyone about this. Like, I've got to figure this out myself because he can't trust anyone because he's Tony Stark. And then on the outside, he's happy-go-lucky. He's got this huge expo. It's all about me. Look, I'm helping the world. But secretly, I can't even help myself.
And he acts out so many times in this movie, and he's like, you know, kind of does some hurtful things to, you know, people he cares about. But none of them know that he's dying. Like, you know, this is a guy who's dying, and he's so proud and so stubborn that he can't admit it to anybody. And he can't, like, not that he doesn't want to tell them that he's dying. He doesn't want to tell them that he can't figure out how to fix it. Like, he has to fix it.
Because he's Tony Stark.
Yeah, and it bothers him so much. And like, that's when he has his like review at the end. They make the point that he doesn't play well with others. Like, he's not a team player whatsoever. And it's because he resents the fact that they showed up, sat down next to him in a booth, and injected him with something that's like, there you go, that'll take the edge off. Like, what? I just spent the last hour and a half trying to figure out how to deal with this shit, and you just inject me with some shield serum that fixes me? Oh, like you can feel how frustrated he must have been with that. Like, oh. Yeah. All he ever had to do was just ask for some help, you know, which is something that he'll never do. Like, and that's something it's carried all the way forward. The thing about Cap in Civil War, like, so, because obviously both of their stories kind of culminate in Civil War, and then Infinity War is sort of the culmination of everybody,
of the overarching everything.
But so in the problem that everybody has, like when it comes to Civil War, like Cap approaches it with a kind of, we all need to band together, we all need to help each other, I need your help, we need to work together. And Tony's like, I need everybody to do what I say. Yeah. I know what's right, and I need you guys to get on board with me. And the people who get on board with him are like, they're lackeys. In Civil War, the people who get on board with Cap, it feels like they all believe in him. Like they want to realize his vision. Yeah. You know, whereas the people who get on board with Tony are run by fear. Like, they're just afraid of what will happen if we don't.
If we don't do this, Or look at the things that have happened. Yeah, like
they're just. Tony wants something that he can quantify and control, and Cap wants what's right.
Yeah, which is like the ideal.
Yeah, it's just ethereal, and
it is interesting going from this movie where Tony Stark is like against government oversight, like totally. Which is the next scene, basically after the expo. He gets a deposition and is ordered to go
successfully privatize world peace.
Yeah, and he goes testifies in front of the U.S. government about the Iron Man weapon. Yeah, when he's like, no, it's just a prosthesis.
Well, they're trying to say it's a sword, and he's saying it's a shield. Yeah, it's armor around the world.
Yeah, a nice nod to shield and an armor around the world, everything like that.
But yeah, he's so against government oversight, and then later in the movie, he wants to be a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, he wants to be a part of the Avengers Initiative. Yes. Like, they sit him down on the table and they tell him he can't have it. Like, maybe it's an element of they tell him he can't have it. And
I think it's definitely that. I think that's Fury playing it against him.
But also, I think this movie brings him to a place where he realizes the importance
of playing with others.
Of like accepting that he can't fix everything by himself. Yeah. Like, ultimately, he does create this new element and fix his heart by himself, but not really, because his dad actually came up with the formula and just lacked the technology to create it at the time. Yeah. And also, he wouldn't have lived long enough to do it in the first place if Black Widow and Nick Fury hadn't shown up and injected him with something, to take away his digital acne, like whatever it was.
His digital veins. He's turning into a circuit board.
He's a Cylon. He's been a Cylon the whole time.
And this is where we first meet Justin Hammer as well in
the Senate meeting. Yeah.
The Senate meeting, and Hammer all throughout this movie, you just get the feeling that he wants to be Tony Stark.
Oh, he wants to be Tony Stark so badly.
He wants what Tony Stark is, and he tries to
to emulate it.
Yeah, he tries to emulate, but he just doesn't give it off correctly.
He just doesn't have the charisma, which is so strange because Sam Rockwell is a being of pure charisma. So I actually find it doubly impressive that he was able to play such a just the guy who sucks all of the energy out of the room every time he speaks somehow. I love that he has that joke. It's just too long-winded. It's actually not a bad joke, but at the end when he's at the expo and he's giving his presentation,
he gives his presentation,
and he just says something like, they used to the press used to complain about
now they're gonna
weapons. Now they're going to have a new problem. They'll run out of ink. And just crickets, and you're like, you can feel like Tony Stark could have given that exact same joke, probably even almost word for word, but his delivery would have been so much stronger.
Would have been on point.
It's just really clever writing. And this movie, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we meet Stein as well here.
Stern, Senator Stern,
Yeah.
who is he already Hydra?
I think he's Hydra. I think this is Hydra's first attempt to get the Iron Man technology.
Maybe. The thing is, they do, right? Because Rhodey steals one. So that's now under the control of the US government.
Yeah.
But several movies from now, when Hydra kind of play their card, there's no Hydra guys running around with Mark II armor or anything. And I also kind of thought maybe...
But the government have the Mark II armor, but they can't replicate it again. Because no one except for Tony Stark and Ivan Vanko can build arc reactors.
They need more geniuses in caves with boxes of scraps. I don't know. Well, maybe. Okay, so possibly he's already... I get the feeling from the story group's perspective, Senator Stern was just Senator Stern.
Yeah.
And he was later retconned to be that he'd been Hydra agent all along.
Probably, that was the case.
Or, possibly, he was so frustrated
from this movie
and angered by this movie and by his treatment and by Tony Stark in general that, sometime between this movie and The Winter Soldier, someone approached him with, an offer to
you know what? We hear you hate Tony Stark.
Yeah, I heard you hate Tony Stark. I hate Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Why don't you join my club?
That's a good point.
It's like, what's it's like, we have these badges. It's like, is that an
Hydra.
octopus or something?
Just say Hail Hydra a lot.
Just we'll send guys your way, and if you could lean in real close to the ear and say Hail Hydra, then we'll know you're one of us.
Yeah.
But this is where we meet Senator Stern, and he's trying to he doesn't really seem like a character in this movie. He's more just an antagonist, a source of antagonism more than an actual person.
Yeah, he's not really a character at all. And we meet the new Rhodey.
Oh yeah, Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
And you read a thing about
his first line is it's me. Don't get over it.
Deal with it.
Deal with it. Which is a nod to the audience, I guess, letting them know that yes, we replaced the actor. We're just going to move past it completely
because Terrence Howard wanted too much money. He wanted $8 million or something.
Okay.
I think at the time, not even Robert Downey Jr. was getting that kind of money. But Terrence Howard was an Oscar winner or whatever. But yeah, she did. I wonder how different the movies would be were Terrence Howard. I'm not sure what Don Cheadle brings versus what Terrence Howard would have brought. I know Terrence Howard has a more...
Don Cheadle has his humor's more dry. I think he gives it a more...
Yeah, Tony Stank. Yeah, I don't know. He does seem more fun than Terrence Howard seemed, but then again, maybe that's because James Rhodes is the buzzkill. He's Officer Buzzkill in all the movies. He's the guy. He exists to bring Tony down to earth.
But even
almost all of Tony's circle exists to bring him down to earth. They don't succeed, but that's their job.
But it just seems like he does it. I like how it's done in this movie more than in Iron Man 1. I think.
Okay, and so it's probably Don Cheadle's performance.
Yeah.
But I have nothing further to say. He's a good choice.
So we have the meeting with the government, and Tony Stark is just in control of this meeting the entire way through. He is playing everybody perfectly. He
even he gets the guy so riled up. He says "fuck you, buddy, fuck you" at the end, which is a senator on a Senate committee board meeting going out to national press. Yeah. And he's like, "Fuck you, buddy." How the fuck are you gonna get re-elected?
So they're worried that people will have the Iron Man suit and arc technology, and Tony hacks their computers and like, no, look, they're all terrible.
Yeah.
The North Koreans once fell over and blew up. And
Justin Hammer's breaking spines.
Yeah, but apparently that guy survived.
I just want to point out that guy survived.
That guy did not survive. He got turned 180 degrees.
Well, I mean, he didn't say he survived with the use of his legs or anything.
True, but like, wouldn't just like all of your insides get ripped as well?
Maybe. I don't know.
It was a very definite 180 turn.
But like, where would they go? Like, you know, if he's in the suit and he gets twisted
just
up.
like tear from one side. Like,
for sure, but like that doesn't. There's no reason why getting torn apart would kill you unless you were actually torn apart. But if you're torn apart but everything's kept in place by a suit.
Okay, yeah.
It's not really important unless that guy turns out to be the Mandarin or something. The guy in that suit. It's probably not going to matter. Right, and then this is also the movie where we first meet Black Widow. Yep. Or Natalie Rushman.
Yeah, so before Black Widow shows up, they have a couple of callback scenes that I thought were pretty nice to the first movie, where Pepper goes down to Tony's in his workshop, and she's talking about how Tony had donated their art collection. And in the first movie, she was like, "What should we do with the art? Should we get this piece of art?" And he's like, "Yeah, buy it. I want it. I need it." It's a nice callback to the first film, I thought. And she's annoyed because she spent 10 years curating this like art collection, and he's like, "No, it was a tax write-off." Yeah,
I never cared about
that. And the Boy Scouts are a good group to donate it to for some reason. And then he wants to make her the CEO of the company.
Well, first he wants to narcissistically put a poster of himself on the wall in place of what she seems to think is like an excellent work of modern art, but to me looked like a black rectangle.
It definitely looked like a black rectangle. I'm not a modern art aficionado, but it was a black rectangle on a white background.
But yeah, so it feels like this was maybe a 10-year-long practical joke that he was pulling on her, because he basically had her make this whole art collection so that one day he could pull it out from under her, and when she was furious about it, he'd be like, "I'm gonna make you the boss."
Yeah, he even said, "I've been thinking about this for a while, actually." And then the robot arm comes over with a tray with champagne, and then we meet Black Widow.
But yeah, sorry, just that you brought it up, because I love Tony and Pepper. I know a lot of people don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, and in every other movie I've seen her in, I found her like insufferable. Like she's just something very difficult to like about her. And maybe it's the quality of Robert Downey Jr. that he just makes everyone around him likable, because he just injects so much energy into every scene.
And charisma.
But there's also just the chemistry between them, the way they play off each other. I
think it's really good as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen her do that, like in any other movie. It's like something that only maybe Robert Downey Jr. could bring out in a person. But because they have this, it's a very, very particular type of dialogue that I think is probably a lot more difficult than people realize, because, you know, there's words written on a page and you're supposed to say those words, right? But it's probably a lot, because you hear a lot of stories about Robert Downey Jr. just constantly improvising and ad-libbing, never does what he's supposed to do. And they have this very particular mechanic for the way they speak to each other, where they're constantly overlapping.
They like, just talk over each other completely.
Sometimes they're having two completely different conversations with each other. And then, like,
or they're having conversations that are interleaved. So one will say one thing, the other will say another. Then the first one will answer the first thing, and then the second, and it will just like interleave like that.
Constantly leapfrogging each other's thoughts, and it's always building to a crescendo. And the crescendo is almost always Robert Downey Jr. being like, "I was right all along."
Tony Stark gets what he wants.
Yeah,
Pepper is left
confused. Like there's always the Pepper shot of like, huh? Like just that Pepper face of, wait a second, was I not only wrong about what I came down here for and got what I want? Like,
what's going on? Now I'm the CEO?
Yeah, like, I just came down here to give out about some art, and now I run the company. It must be really stressful to work for that guy.
Yeah. Which she makes a point of later.
But yeah, so the next scene, like, Tony is sparring with, what's his name? Happy. And it's like she comes, basically, so she comes in and she's like, sign over the company to me now.
Yeah, and they have a notary from the legal department who's Black Widow.
Black Widow, and
I don't think she says anything really in this scene.
She introduces herself, and then he like gets it. Well, he's about to get out of the ring, and he invites her to get in and maybe spar or something.
Here, front and center.
Yeah, and she gets in and just sort of looks at him, and there's this weird like proper 4 to 5 second pause where they're just staring at each other's eyes. He's like sucking on that drink that he's using to keep the the palladium cancer at bay.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of goes, what? And she doesn't. I don't know. It feels like maybe he was trying. Like, this is probably something he does with all women that he's into. Like, and he was hoping to kind of throw her off. and she's just unflappable. Like, just,
this is what she wants.
Yeah,
and
exactly where she wants
to
be.
We get more great Pepper-Tony interaction here.
I want one.
They're sitting down on the same seat, and they're like, I think I need a new assistant.
They're sitting down on a one-person seat together.
Yeah, I think I need a new assistant. You don't need a new assistant. Stop ogling her, you know.
No, are you Googling her? Oh, I thought I was ogling her.
Yeah, like, she's going to be a sexual harassment lawsuit if you keep staring at her, things like that. And then, in the meantime, Happy and her are about to spar off.
Well, no, Happy, like, she's just sort of standing in the ring, and then Happy's like, never turn your back on her opponent. And he's like, very slowly moving his fist towards her. She catches the fist, twists his arm, throws her legs up around his head, and then spins him to the ground in that kind of WWE move or whatever.
Yeah, and Happy's just like, oh, I tripped. I tripped.
And then, so then she, like, the next time we see her, I think they're in Monaco, and she's already his assistant.
Yeah.
Like,
her plan has been executed perfectly.
But then
I forgot to try and watch this, not knowing that she was Black Widow. I went into it like normally when I'm rewatching the films, I'm like, okay, any of the twists, try and watch it without realizing it's the twist.
Okay.
But I'd forgotten to do it for this. I was like, oh yeah, she's just perfectly playing her part, like insinuating herself as Tony's assistant so she can keep an eye on him.
I don't know. I wonder about it though, because there's a few scenes in this where it really feels like she's trying to seduce him. There's the scene where, like, the night before his party, when he's having one of his rare moments of clarity where he's like, I shouldn't do this. Like, this is, this is going to end badly. And it's going to be my fault. And she's being, like, real kind of caring and maternal and, like, supportive or whatever. Yeah. And it's more than she needs to do. Like, she's not losing that job,
That's fair.
And I don't know, there's a good few kind of staring into each other's eyes scenes. Yeah. Or like innuendo or whatever, where you really get the feeling that she's trying to let him subtly know that we might have sex at some point.
Yeah, and I think that's just like her, like, this is how I get control, like, keep Tony under control.
But does she? Like, when does she exert control?
She doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm like, I completely understand the tactic of, like that's a great way for someone who looks like Scarlett Johansson to exert control over the most powerful billionaire in the universe. But she doesn't utilize it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it never actually comes in handy.
Because Rhodey shows up.
Exactly. So, like, ultimately, and that's not even the outcome that they wanted. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Avenger Initiative or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't want that.
They show up after and they're like, he just walked in there and took it from you. It's like, or he walked in. No, he just. What was it?
He took it from you, or you just let him take it?
No, it was because they said, like, he just. No, because Tony says, no, I didn't let him have it, he took it. Yeah. Like, he took it, he just walked in there and took it. Shit, I've somehow completely forgotten. But anyway, it's not the outcome that they were looking for. And it doesn't feel like he's ever under anyone's control. Like, in this movie more than any of them, like, he's wild. Like, he's just, they go to Monaco because he owns one of the race teams. Yeah. And then has a meeting with, like, he sits down with Justin Hammer and his, like, the woman he had sex with
in the start of the first movie.
Completely humiliates Hammer and then proceeds to just leave and go get into his race car.
But not only that, they, like, walk in, some people are getting ready to sit down at a table. He's like, no, I want that table. That's our table now. Then he goes to Hammer. Then they're like, oh, our table's ready. Then he just leaves.
He just leaves. It gets into his race car, and then Hammer's like, it cuts back to Hammer sitting in there with the reporter, and she's like, he's trying to talk himself up, and she's just staring at the screen because Tony Stark is getting into that race car.
Yeah, and it's again this, you see Hammer trying to be like Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Trying to have, like, some of his, like, his...
The flair.
Yeah, the flair, the weird eccentricities, and not quite getting it right, and it just puts people off. And then Tony just starts driving his car.
Yeah, he just starts racing in the Monaco Grand Prix, which is a Formula 1 Grand Prix. And, I'm not, like, it's a car, he's driving a car, like, I'm sure it has a shifter or whatever.
I'm sure he's used to driving very fast cars a lot of the time, but a Formula 1 car...
Formula 1 cars are, like, they're tricky, right? Like, it's a sport. Like, you can't race a Nissan Micra and call it a sport, but you can race one of these cars and call it a sport, so there's got to be more to it than just driving a car. I don't know, it just seems like, is that really in his wheelhouse? But then again, the Marvel Universe is flooded with hyper-competent individuals who are just polymaths in every field, so maybe we'll just accept that. Like. Yeah. But so this is where Ivan Vanko shows up, and I'm wondering what was his plan if
Tony wasn't racing.
If Tony wasn't racing, because obviously he could just go into the restaurant and kill him there. But then the whip suit in a restaurant?
Yeah, but he's already, like, not only that, but he's already wearing
the exosuit.
No, not the exosuit. The, like,
Oh, the pit crew. The pit crew uniform,
overalls.
yeah.
So I think maybe his plan was, I'm just going to go out on the racetrack and cut Tony's car in half. I know Tony's here. He'll come and try and stop me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it just happened that Tony was in the car.
But the thing is, then he would have had to fight Iron Man. Like, a prepared Iron Man.
True. That's true, yeah.
And, like, all Tony had to do... Like, the thing is, he has Tony at a disadvantage because he cuts the car in half and then...
And Tony's, like, shocked because he's in a car crash.
Yeah, Tony's shocked. You know, he's quick-witted, so he manages to evade him long enough for Pepper and Happy to get there with the thing.
Yeah.
He cuts their car to ribbons, but Tony manages to get the suit. But even when he gets the suit, he's so close up with Vanko that it's like... he can't use any of the tactics he would usually use.
Yeah.
Whereas, if his plan was to just destroy Tony's car and kill his racer, and then Tony would fly in the suit, all Tony would have to do is hover 20 feet away and fire at him with repulsors.
Just
right?
fire a rocket at him.
Yeah, like,
that's true.
Or use his one-use only laser and cut him in half. Like there's any number of ways he could have. I don't know. It's just it's a great scene. Like, and it's cool watching Happy like flying wrong way down the track to get to him.
There's lots of other things I had a problem with in this scene as well. When Vanko's like walking toward, like, he's cut Tony's car in half.
Yeah.
He's walking towards Tony, and 3 other Formula 1 cars pull up behind Vanko. One, turns right, like, immediately and, like, starts flipping. 2 others hit it. And they explode. And they go flying either side of Vanko perfectly. The explosion doesn't mess with him. None of the flying debris mess with him. He's just cool as a cucumber because he's got this weird exosuit. But you see lots of his skin, so... I just had, like... There's a bit of that taking me out of the scene, just how unbelievable it was.
He also gets hit by a Bentley at top speed.
Yeah.
Like, and not just hit by it, slammed into a wall.
Into a barrier.
And I mean, okay, he's wearing an exosuit, but it's not fucking Iron Man armor. Like, it's just a sort of skeletal thing.
Like a belt.
Yeah. And he gets, like, even if he was wearing that, he gets crushed between a car and a wall. Like, just the speed at which he gets pushed into the wall is enough to shatter the bones. Like,
yeah.
And not only that, but then they reverse and they hit him again. And then they reverse and they hit him again. And he's like swinging at them and chopping bits off their car. And they just keep hitting him and hitting him.
And then there's like sort of a bit with trying to get the suitcase out of the car, but the door keeps slamming and opening and closing.
Yeah, but mostly it's just Pepper being a fucking moron.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. She's just like squealing away in the back of the car and all you can think is, throw it out.
Yeah.
He's standing right there, just throw it. Why are you like trying to hand it to him?
I imagine, like, this was a question I had as well. How heavy is that suitcase?
Right, because it's Iron Man armor.
It's an Iron Man suit.
What is it? What is it made in the first one? Titanium gold?
I think it's a gold titanium alloy.
Gold is heavy, right?
Gold is heavy, but also very soft and malleable. So I don't know why you would make it out of gold.
It was because of the highness, the altitude, right, or something? I don't know.
Yeah, but if it was gold titanium, it would probably be very, very heavy.
Yeah. Well, titanium is what they make planes out of, right?
No, that's aluminium mostly.
Oh, okay. So is titanium heavier than aluminium?
I believe so.
Okay. Sure.
But it's titanium's real strong.
But yeah, I mean it's light enough that a reasonably strong man can carry it all day.
Yeah.
It seems like Happy
to just like
it's like the nuclear football, like he's just carrying it around at all times. Yeah. But yeah, that's good. Good point.
This movie, in comparison to the first one, I didn't get the same sense of weight from the Iron Man suits.
As
the first one did. The first one, you definitely got the sense that these things are really, really heavy.
If we hadn't lost that podcast, that was an excellent point that we made. It's like that these suits are metal. Like
in the first one, you feel that these suits are heavy, that they have some weight behind them, that they have impact. This one, they have the sound effects like they're heavy, but they don't feel heavy.
There's a scene after the Iron Man versus Iron Man fight, Iron Man versus War Machine fight the birthday party fight between Tony and Rhodey, where Rhodey's walking away and his footsteps just kind of sound like steel toe boots. Like he's just tink. Just tink tink tink. He just walks out onto the concrete and takes off. It doesn't feel heavy at all. And that's the Mark II. That's the one that should be the heaviest one.
That's the one that fell through the roof and crushed Tony's car.
Exactly. So that one should weigh quite a bit, I would have thought. Also, so he puts this suit on, but they established at the Stark Expo that he still uses the mechanical disassembler. So like when he lands at the Stark Expo, he gets into this thing and he puts his hands out and these machines take the suit off for him, and he still needs to be unscrewed from it, right?
Yeah. So that was the full Mark, I guess, 4?
Yeah.
Mark 4.
And okay, fair
I guess
enough.
this is the Mark 5.
And yeah, and this is probably, or maybe this is just a sort of in a case of emergency one.
Yeah,
it's probably like,
it definitely is.
Yeah, just a release catch to jump out of it. But Rhodey steals the Mark II.
Yeah.
Flies to an Air Force
How
base.
does he get out?
How did he get out? Because he has all of this, like, it's, what's the word? Like, it's when you build something specifically for yourself. He has this custom built, custom's not the right word, but anyway, he has these machines that are designed to take the suit off.
Yeah.
I'll put the suit on, take the suit off.
Purpose built,
yeah, something like that. Like, and this is like Tony Stark, box of scraps, genius.
Yeah.
Like built these machines to take this machine off of him and put it onto him. But Rhodey takes one of these, like, okay, he can get into it because he takes it from
he takes it from the thing.
Yeah.
They even show a bit of the scene where
he gets like buttoned up.
Yeah.
But then he flies away to this army base. How does he get out of it?
I guess the hard way, the long way, where instead of robot arms taking it off, they have guys like with screwdrivers unscrewing it.
Yeah, but then again, that's the War Machine armor, right? So that's the armor that he's using, period.
Yeah.
Like, for all the movies.
Yeah.
So
Hammer has made some adjustments.
Well, he put some guns onto it. But then again, in the third movie, Mandarin's trying to get him out of that. Yeah. And he's like, they don't even consider like unscrewing him or whatever. They just try to boil him out of there.
That's true.
And it's like, so my point is, so it must be more difficult than you think to get a guy out of that shit, unless you have this machine disassembler.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just something that occurred to me. Like,
unless, I guess it's hard to get him out if he doesn't want to be taken out, but he wants to be taken out at the army base, so he can probably like unlock the bolts or something from the inside using a computer system.
Maybe, I don't know. I just wonder. Well, no, because I remember.
That's a good point.
Yeah, well, it's something that I thought about in the last podcast was like how difficult it seemed. Like in the very first time that he puts it on and actually goes out on a mission and comes back,
he can't get out.
Yeah, like the machines are just they're not working properly to get him out of the thing.
Yeah.
And so it just, I know in later movies he develops a version of like the Mark 42 where it just flies to him, like it's all these like modular parts.
Yeah. Hell, in the comics, I think at one point in the comics,
it's just in his skin or
his
something.
suit. Yeah, it's inside his skin as like nanobots or something, just like all around his skin. And he just like can summon it at will to surround him.
Seems like at that point, do you need a suit? Like, it's under your skin, dude. You're basically Wolverine. You're set, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Vanko takes his shot, fails.
Yeah.
But does he? Like, that's what he says to him afterwards.
Yeah, because he's like, if you make God bleed,
so he does his Xerxes moment of, I don't think anybody thought Tony Stark or Iron Man was a god, but and I also
like the start of the film, like there's lots of flashes, like Tony Stark stabilizes Middle East, loads of like flashes where basically like we are in the longest period of peace in modern history, thanks to me, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And then Vanko comes along and is like, you're not invincible, and the Iron Man isn't invincible. You can be beaten. You can bleed, and if it doesn't shake Iron Man, it definitely shakes Tony for the rest of most of the rest of the film. I think that this is a lasting impact.
Yeah.
On him, where he's like, maybe I'm not invincible,
and he can definitely still be outsmarted, which is something he's not used to.
Yeah. Because Vanko built something that Tony thought couldn't be built by anyone else. And he knows things that Tony hasn't told anyone, such as the palladium poisoning, which no one else in the world knows. And that seems more than anything to
shake him.
To get to him. To put him on tilt, to borrow a term from gaming.
And because then afterwards is it right after? It's soon after anyways, the party. No, actually then you get another him and Pepper scene. They fly home from Monaco.
Yeah, they're flying home.
And he doesn't want to go home. Like he still hasn't admitted to her that he's dying, and he's just like, let's just go to Venice.
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, yeah, Tony, you're hilarious. Let's go to Venice. He's like, no,
yeah,
he really wants to go to Venice. Like, he doesn't want to go home. Like,
take a work holiday, a retreat. Well, in the meantime, Pepper's like, no, I've gotta like we're in a shit show right now. We have to be.
The company is in turmoil. Like somebody's got to deal with this.
Yeah. Tony spent 3 hours making a terrible looking omelette.
And it's just like, it's a great example of what is it when in Civil War, when everybody's voicing their opinions over the Sokovia Accords, and Romanoff, Black Widow, says, Tony, you're being uncharacteristically non-hyperverbal.
Yeah.
Like he's always talking, but he never tells anybody anything of import. Like he never shares his feelings. He never lets people know how these things are affecting him.
Yeah.
He's just always talking.
Yeah. In this one, it's definitely because he's dying.
Yeah.
He doesn't want. He can't say anything to Pepper like, "Oh, I like you," because I'm dying.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you in that situation because I can't get out of this myself. There's no way I found to get out of it. I've literally tried every permutation of every element known to man, and none of it will work.
It's weird. Maybe it's just because the concept is so high. Like it's like completely beyond the pale. This is a really emotional story. Like the guy is dying,
Yeah.
and he can't admit it to the people closest to him because they are all so used to him being this invincible paragon.
He's
right?
Tony Stark.
He is the Tony Stark, and he can't admit it to the people he cares about. He can't even admit it to himself. It's destroying. Not only is the palladium destroying him, but he's destroying himself because like he can't deal with it. There's nothing left, and all he has left. The only way that he can actually vent what's going on is to just keep doing ever more dangerous things to the point that he actually provokes his best friend, his only friend, into a Iron Man fight. And like it's actually a really compelling emotional story, but it doesn't tug at me, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but it's like on paper, again, like Mickey Rourke reading this, on paper, this looks like, you know, this guy who had this terrible distant relationship with his father finds out that actually his father cared for him deeply and went so far as to extradite Russian whatever to Siberia so that he could maintain this legacy. Like the Russian guy just wanted to profit from it or something.
Yeah, so Howard Stark thought it was at the energy base. It was gonna cure most of the world's problems. Like if we could have
free energy,
it would be unbelievable. And then Vanko just wanted to make profit off it.
And so like you have this story where this man, all in the same week, like finds out that like his father, who his father who he thought didn't even like him, actually cared deeply for him.
Standoffish, cold.
But like, you know, a 50s man, like he was just a typical guy. Turns out like cared deeply for him and even left that kind of video will to him, letting him know that, you know, I've gone as far as I can in my life's work, but I believe in you. I know that you're going to do it.
There is something here.
Yeah.
I can't do it. You can finish this.
So that's one thing that's going on this week. The other thing is he's being poisoned to death by the palladium in the chest piece.
He's being poisoned to death by the only thing that's keeping him alive.
Keeping him alive, yeah. So like he can't stop using it, but it is killing him. So so he's just drinking wheatgrass, which is another horrible thing.
Yeah.
And he's handed over his company to Pepper right at the same moment that like everyone in the world suddenly wants to take his armor away from him. Yeah. Right? So like he's handed over the keys to his company, which now that I think about it, is probably because he's dying.
Oh yeah.
I
think most of his actions in the first half of the movie are because he's dying, and he doesn't have a cure. The Expo, it's his way to leave something to the world,
mark, a legacy,
leave a mark or a legacy to the world when he's gone, and handing over the company to Pepper because she's basically
he can trust her.
Yeah, he can trust her. She's basically been running the company anyway, and yeah, it's just something that he can do for her.
But it's I don't know. It's so strange because like I don't understand why this story doesn't hit me the way that it ought to. The way that like in Guardians of the Galaxy, when Peter grabs the stone at the end and he's dying and he looks over at Gamora and Gamora becomes his mother holding out a hand and he ran away from his mother because he was afraid of death because everybody is. He's a small child, and then later on in his life he's filled with regret. He's constantly listening to this tape of his mother and he turns around and sees the only person who's been nice to him lately and sees his mother reaching out to him, and that really hit me. I felt so emotional. I can completely the image of my mom in a hospital bed, like that's something that never leaves you, you know, like, and for some reason, but it's the same thing. It's parent issues, you know, like he's reaching over, he sees his mom, it's this terrible, he's like tears rushing down his face, like maybe it's because he expresses it, maybe it's because Peter Quill like cries, like, and actually has feelings and talks about
most
them.
of what we see from Tony Stark is the Iron Man bravado, the like face of it. It's like, no, nothing's wrong, I'm amazing and invincible, but really I'm not. But you only get glimpses of that.
Yeah, maybe.
You don't really. You get like at the start, you get the glimpse where he's like, "Oh, I am dying," but even we as viewers see it like, "Oh, he's Iron Man.
Yeah,
he's going to think of a way out of this."
Maybe, yeah.
So that's why it doesn't hit home as much, because like he thinks he's dying, but like we as an audience are like, oh, he's Iron Man, he's gonna get out of it.
Yeah,
he's gonna come up with a way. Even if in the film he doesn't do it all by himself, he does have help eventually from people around him. He does figure out a way out of it.
Yeah, that could be it. It's weird. It's just like I don't know. It just feels like this movie on paper ought to be a classic.
Yeah.
Or like at least one of the top tier Iron Man movies, because it's got everything that you might want. But I don't know. Yeah, there's just something about, maybe it's just Robert Downey Jr. But no, it's not, because like in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, or like in other movies, I've seen him be incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
But Tony Stark is never vulnerable, and it's like that's even like in Civil War. But half of the reason I was on Cap's side is because at the start of the movie he gets a text message from somebody saying that Peggy's dead. He goes into the stairwell and cries, and then cuts to the scene, he's carrying her coffin and there's tears going down his face. And this is Tony Stark is kind of, it's all show.
Yeah.
Captain America, it's real. Like
everything is real.
It's him. Like all of his strength is his strength. You know, like yes, he was injected with something, but it's part of him now. It's part of his molecular makeup. You know. Tony Stark has to get into the armor. He's like they have that scene in the Avengers where he's like, take the armor off, and what are you? It's like billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. And so, yeah, but even when he says that, it's like bluster, bluster, bluster. Like that's all you have is words. Whereas Steve has ideals and the emotional core necessary to back up those ideals. And the thing is, Tony Stark does. That's what this movie is like. He's establishing that core. There's like a kernel that this is all growing around.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he doesn't show it. He doesn't display it. You know, like there's no kind of
especially not in this film anyway. But in Iron Man 3, there is a lot.
The
more,
PTSD stuff.
There's PTSD, and there's a lot more like Tony without his suit, Tony vulnerable.
Yeah.
Compared to this film, where this film is like the midpoint of the Iron Man arc, where he's like supposed to be on top of the world, but there's this like dark underlayer where he might not make it out of this alive because he's Iron Man.
Yeah, because he can't just admit he needs help. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, like, we're not going to fix it. So, all I'm trying to say is I really liked the movie, and I think on paper it's a very compelling story that for some reason didn't work on screen.
Yeah.
I can't figure out why.
Yeah.
But yeah, what else do we have to talk about?
So Vanko gets broken out of prison by Hammer because Hammer sees that Vanko had an arc reactor, basically, or some fancy tech.
And they have a meeting in an aircraft hangar, which is obviously his...
Oh my god, his attempt to be started yet again.
He's got like classical music playing, he's got some chef that he's flown in making
got,
a lobster.
He's got like a full like waiter staff there, and he's eating his ice cream first because that's weird and eccentric.
I can be weird.
He's like, I've had this flown in from Chicago, it's Italian.
And also, this is where Vanko shifts. So up until now, he's very clever. He's very kind of astute, very... I'm very bad at thinking of words when I really need to.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's been a very canny individual. He's a very cunning opponent.
Very competent at everything.
And this is where he... I mean, I suppose it's just another display of competence, but it's where he immediately starts playing dumb.
Yeah.
Like, and he just, like, first of all, he's not even that great at English, suddenly.
Good man.
Good, yeah. I will help you. I want my bird.
I want
my bird. He just starts playing an idiot, which is so perfect. Yeah. Oh my god, what a great choice. He
immediately clocks how to play Hammer.
Yeah, like straight away. And it's the same. It's actually the same as Tony in the Senate meeting. It's like he just sits down in a room, recognizes where he is, what's going on, and immediately takes control.
Yeah.
Because like he's acting like a dumbass, but Justin Hammer is eating out of the palm of his hand by the end of it. Like, and this is, but at the same time as he's doing that, Justin Hammer feels like he's got all the cards.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like I'm perfect. This is exactly what I needed.
Another example of how this movie is so clever and well written, but for some reason doesn't work. I don't understand. It's got Sam Rockwell's perfect choice for Justin Hammer. Why isn't this movie great? But yeah, so Justin Hammer takes him to his facility for making Iron Man.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want you to make me suits. Make me a bunch of suits, and I want them to be like, what is he? He gets up there. He's like, what do you want them to do? He's like, I want them to put me in the Pentagon
for
5
the
years.
Next 25 years.
And blow Iron Man out of the sky. He's like, I can do this.
Yeah. Also, just before the scene with the suits, we get a scene with Rhodey and Tony in his workshop, and Tony helps.
Right, when he falls out the car, yeah.
Yeah, he falls out the car because like we gotta get on top of this. The world is like, oh, there's all these suits everywhere. What are we gonna do? Tony's looking into Vanko's past, things like that. And then Rhodey sees that Tony needs the like palladium core, and it's all like worn down and corroded and stuff. But Tony doesn't tell him that he's dying. But Rhodey sees the like rash on his neck, and it's like, oh no, it's road rash from the fight or whatever. So like that would have been a perfect opportunity to like reach out to one of your closest friends for help, and Tony just brushes him off yet again because he can't admit.
He can't admit. He's just too proud.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. So Justin Hammer, basically, like all these scenes with Justin Hammer in his like, and Vanko in the production facility is just Vanko toying with him.
Yeah, like he walks up, takes control of the computer immediately.
Yeah.
Hammer's like, oh, we'll get you login credentials in a minute.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
You've already got that. And it brings me back to the scene in the cave with Tony in the first movie, where basically Vanko just needs to buy enough time to turn all these guys into drones and then put them under his command. At the same time, he's also apparently building his own suit. They never show it, but he builds his own Iron Man suit.
Well, I think he just modifies one of Hammer's suits.
Oh yeah, it seems like bigger, bulkier, different or something. But
yeah, although I guess
it has the whiplash.
Yeah,
things.
the whiplash things.
But yeah, that's kind of the measure of those scenes. It's just it's like a bright version of the cave where he is under the very nose of the person who has him held hostage.
Yeah.
Again, pretty much hostage. He builds his salvation. You know?
Yeah, he builds his Iron Man suit.
So yeah, another
another
it's great. Like
mirror.
It's really good writing. Like he's actually a really good villain because he is. Imagine if Tony had been born in Russia. Like this he is Tony. Like he's got the intelligence. He's got the pedigree.
Poor circumstance. He could have been.
He's just a victim of circumstance, and those circumstances were wrought by Howard Stark. But yeah, anyway. So then, the best scene is the birthday party. So, like I said before, he has this weird, tender kind of scene with Natalie Rushman, also known as Black Widow.
Yeah.
Where he's basically he asks her, "What would you do if you're going to die tomorrow?" Because I think his last reading was like 85% or something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You have the scene with his shirt's open. You see all the crazy veins spreading out to it. They're going up his neck almost.
Yeah. So like he's actually, this could be his last night on Earth from his point of view.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm guessing, like after this is where Black Widow checked in with Nick Fury. He's like, you need to fly down here with that cure because he.
Yeah, there's a very quick interaction between Pepper and Black Widow.
Yeah.
Where Pepper's like, "What are you doing? I've had a feeling about you since you got here. Things have been going to shit since you got here. Who are you?" And Black Widow like pieces out because Rhodey showed up in the Iron Man suit.
Okay, so her cover was like moments away from being blown.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
But I guess later on in the film, not much really, because then they're best of friends because they hate Tony.
She ingratiates herself somehow.
So we have Drunk Iron Man.
Drunk Iron Man. So and wearing the Iron Man suit at a party,
at his birthday
his birthday party, yeah,
in his house. Just women everywhere. There's some like army generals and pilots and things like that as well.
And he's got people throwing stuff up so he can shoot repulsor blasts at it.
Not at the start. At first he's just like, DJing or whatever, and then he accidentally fires a repulsor through a glass window.
And everybody applauds.
Yeah. I'm like, that's so dangerous. Why aren't you all running? There's a drunk man in a super suit.
But yeah, and then so it starts out like, so Rhodey shows up and tells Pepper, "No, this is too far. I gotta deal with this."
Yeah.
And so Rhodey kind of disappears from the scene, and
Pepper tries to shut it down.
Yeah.
But doesn't, and then Tony's just like, "No, after party."
Yeah, she thinks she has him convinced, and he's like, "Yeah, the party's over. The after party." And then so people start throwing stuff up, and he's blasting at with his repulsor.
That's when Rhodey it's like.
He disappears. I'm going to deal with this.
Shit.
Yeah. And he's got his own passcode. And that's the thing. So somebody, I think Nick Fury points it out to what's his name later, that like he just took it from, like he just got in your suit and flew away. Wouldn't it have some kind of security countermeasures?
And Black Widow's like, yes, actually, from reading the security files, it does.
So there should be ways to lock out unauthorized use.
Yeah.
So
only authorized people can use the suits.
Yeah. So basically, Tony kind of let him.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony was also blind drunk and kind of stupid, but
yeah, it could be like his way of reaching out to his friend, like, I can't. Maybe this is another way. Like, I'm dying. At least
Take
this way,
suit.
you can be Iron Man when I'm gone.
Someone I trust will have a suit, and you can. But that's not how it starts.
That's not how it starts.
First, Rhodey shows up, ends the party, no preamble, and then he's like, "You're coming with me."
And then Tony says the best line ever: "DJ, give me some fat beats to beat
my buddy to." And DJ AM. Professional to the end.
There is a great mix for this fight scene.
Yeah, what is it? So it starts off with Another One Bites the Dust, which mixes into It Takes Two, which rounds out with Robot Rock. So it's Another One Bites the Dust in the main room, It Takes Two out into the gym where they're like swinging barbells at each other, and then Robot Rock when they're in the front room, like the vestibule area. All the party guests are outside the building and they're just like going toe to toe. And like even drunk, like Iron Man clearly has the advantage because he knows the suit better and he's using it better. He's more fluid in the way he moves.
Plus, he's in like the Mark IV or something.
He's in like the newer
the Mark II.
But like he kind of gets the better of Rhodey, and then he looks out and sees the crowd.
And he gets the "I'm a monster" shot.
Yeah, like he recognizes that all these people are terrified of me, and so he frightens them off.
Yeah.
And that gives Rhodey enough time to kind of knock him into the fire or something, which kind of places them at opposite sides of the room.
So that they repulsor each other.
And establish that when you fire a repulsor at a repulsor, you create a crazy blast.
Yeah, a sort of repulsor blast in the center.
And
then Tony's left lying there when Rhodey just gets up and flies away.
And that's kind of not like friendship over, but definitely suspended for a second.
Yeah, and definitely like again, it leaves like an impression. It leaves like an impression that's all brought up again in Civil War.
Yeah, it's actually similar because that's the way Cap leaves him as well. It's just knocked to the ground and trapped in his suit. Like
like seeing this, it's very like a precursor to the Civil War fight between Cap and Steve.
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah.
And then so Rhodey takes the suit back to his Air Force base, and Hammer tapes a bunch of guns to it.
Basically, yes.
Only one of which I think he actually designed himself. The rest are just guns that exist in the world.
The rest are just guns.
And he's taking credit for them for some reason.
I guess like these are all staples of. Well, I guess not even the military, because one of them's like an automatic 9mm pistol or something.
Yeah, and there's like the FN 2000,
which is
like a Norwegian weapon.
Yeah,
or something
it's some European country that has that.
But so he just straps a bunch of random caliber weapons to the
all
suit.
over the suit.
Yeah, and no grace whatsoever, which is very Justin.
Yeah.
But he has they established the ex-wife, so there's like crazy bunker under the bunker buster.
Yeah.
That's going
a kinetic kill vehicle is what they call it, which I thought was for like super like near light speed weapons.
But it's like kinetic relativity or something.
Okay.
Something. Yeah, you're right. Because we looked it up for The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
There is a version of a kinetic kill vehicle that has another word in there, like kinetic relativity kill vehicle or something to that effect. But anyway, so.
Or a relativistic
kinetic kill vehicle.
Yeah. So I guess this is just a regular kinetic kill vehicle.
Or it's a dud. But so then we get the cafe scene, which I wondered when I saw this for the second time, having seen all the How It Should Have Ended videos now that kind of came out in the interim. Is this where the superhero cafe came from?
It does seem like a good inspiration for it.
It's just like it's because it's a guy in like sitting there in an Iron Man suit, and then Nick Fury opposite him, giving him a talking to.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to ask you to exit the donut. So Tony Stark here is he's hanging hard, and suffering from the effects of palladium poisoning.
He's dying and having a hangover today.
And we get the reveal that
Natalie Rushman is actually Natalia Romanoff,
Black Widow. And she's like a spook for S.H.I.E.L.D.
And she has the cure, well not the cure, but like something to alleviate the symptoms of the palladium poisoning.
Yeah.
Which, if you'd only asked, right?
Yeah. Lithium dioxide.
Which sounds like it would be poison to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Yeah, and then this is where we get where Fury is like, I knew your father.
Right, your father was the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., of which I am now the director.
He was one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. I knew him pretty well. We need to work together.
Yeah, and everything that you think you know about him, I actually knew him a little better, and I have some context for all of those experiences you had with him that maybe you don't know.
And here we get the drop of the tie-in to the Incredible Hulk, potentially. where he says, "I don't want to be here. I've got a whole situation in the Southwest regions to deal with."
Which is weird though. This movie takes place after the Incredible Hulk, so I guess in canon is it actually chronologically
at the same time?
Oh,
I think.
okay.
Because at the end there are live broadcasts, news broadcasts from the college, from the fight scene at the college in the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, cool. Okay, I didn't know that.
And that would make sense timeline-wise, because at the end of the Hulk, which is set about a month after the end,
Tony shows up
as the
consultant
from the Marvel one-shot to try and get Abomination in the Avengers.
Well, to try.
Yeah, to try and get Abomination in the Avengers.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's a lot of... Like I said, it's a very dense movie. So much happens that's actually very pivotal.
Yeah.
But anyway, then we have the bird scene. So Justin Hammer shows up with a bird for...
Yeah.
For Ivan Vanko. And, like, I guess it's funny, like, that, you know, he's asking for a bird that he used to have back home.
Yeah, he wants his bird, which he left back in Russia, I guess.
So, I have questions, right? Where's the bird?
How long has it been?
Yeah, who's feeding it? Did he leave it with somebody? Does somebody have instructions to feed it?
Or leave the window open so the bird can come and go?
Or does he just have a trough full of bird seed somewhere? Like what are this bird's chances? You know?
Yeah.
And if he did just leave the window open so that the bird could fend for itself, are they supposed to go to his village and hunt this bird?
I think that's what he that's what he requested. He's like, I want my bird.
And also, if you're so enamored with this bird, why didn't you bring it with you on your vendetta?
That's true.
Because because I think he thought he was going to die. And that's the thing. I think he thought he was going to die. Like, I think he was hoping he was hoping to kill Tony. Like, we'll get into it in the final act. But like, I think he was hoping to kill Tony. But either way, he wanted to hurt Tony, and he figured he probably wouldn't make it out.
Yeah.
So in that case, I'm wondering, did you make arrangements for this bird? Like, because you seem to be under the impression that it's still alive wherever
it's really important.
Yeah, and it's really important to you, and it's definitely not a Russian bird. So somebody needs to be taking care of that bird.
Yeah.
Like that's clearly a tropical bird. So if you've left it back in Russia, somebody must have a
very alcoholic tropical bird.
Yeah. Anyway. I don't know. I put on a real serious tone when I started talking about the bird. I don't know why. It feels like it's more important to me than the whole rest of them.
You just need to know.
I'm not even into birds or whatever, but like for some reason that seems like that's something we have to take seriously, Stephen. Like there's a bird out there. Who's taking care of it? Where's it getting its food? But yeah, so they basically they've had enough of him. Like he's turned the suits into drones,
which is probably better.
Better. He says it's better, and it probably would work. Like if you want,
I think it would be better for a military.
Because
from a military
instead
standpoint.
of training 20 guys to use the suit, you train one guy to operate the suits from a computer.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Hammer's being his typical Hammer self and trying to get one of these guys.
He wants the Iron Man suit. He wants to be Tony.
I want to be Tony. Yeah, exactly. I have to have what he has.
If he could have, like, basically, I think Hammer just wants an Iron Man suit for himself, basically.
Probably, yeah. It's like he's just stalling. Like the Vanko at this, like he's just making drones for himself, and he tells them that they're only going to be demonstration models. They're not going to be like.
Yeah. So.
Or not demonstration. They're going to be. He makes a distinction between like.
A demonstration and something else, a performance.
Performance.
I think.
Maybe.
And he's like, I could make. Yeah, that's later in the movie. I think I can make them salute, and that's definitely him buying time.
So then next up, it's like Shield. Like when Nick Fury shows up at Tony's house with a box. Doesn't have Gwyneth Paltrow's head in it, and tells him to like basically he leaves a babysitter with him, leaves Coulson there, and he's like, you're gonna open that box and you're gonna look at everything inside of it,
or I'm gonna tase you,
One
super nanny while you drool into the carpet.
You cannot leave this place until you have examined all of the contents of this box.
Again, I like the dichotomy of Coulson where it's like he doesn't seem that imposing, but if Tony tried to leave, that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah, and there's nothing he could do about it. He put on Iron Man armor, and Coulson would pull something out of his ass to take him down, even in the Iron Man armor.
He just doesn't feel competent, but he is competent. There's a weird scene here. Tony's like flipping through all the stuff from Howard Stark, and he's like flipping through a notebook, and there's some equations, and then it pauses for a second on a page where there's a drawing of what looks like a hypercube, and I'm thinking. Is that like a reference to the Tesseract?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just like a pencil drawing of what looks like a hypercube. It could be, it looked like a hypercube to me anyway, and I was like, is that like a call forward basically to the Tesseract of Avengers?
Huh. Well, that's what a tesseract is, right? It's hypercube.
Yeah, that's the name for it.
Oh, wow, cool.
It's just like he was just flicking through it and they stayed on that page just like a little too long. It's like, why do they linger on that page?
Huh. Even if it wasn't on purpose, it might have been that while whoever was writing the Avengers was watching Iron Man 2 and went, that'd be that's the thing. That should be the MacGuffin.
That's the MacGuffin, yeah.
But yeah, so Nick Fury leaves this box with him, and in one of the things inside of it is a show reel from, it's basically the master of the video, the Stark Expo video that Howard Stark recorded back in the day to like announce and explain what the Stark Expo was. And it's the master, so it's got all of the outtakes, the bloopers and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so
he watches like little Tony Stark taking something off the bottle and everything.
And Howard Stark getting really upset and it's like, put it back exactly where you found it.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand what this model is for, young man. And so he's just kind of has this, he's doing something else. He's like looking up figures or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's on in the background, and then at some point Howard Stark just sort of looks down camera and says, Tony,
I'm recording this because you're too young to understand.
You're too young to understand, so I'm recording this, and hopefully you'll look at it when you're older. And this is where you find out that Howard Stark all along had actually left behind his life's work for Tony to complete.
Yeah. Because
he knew that Tony would be able to, and that the technology to do so would probably not exist until Tony was a grown up.
He even says, I'm like hamstrung by, or like I'm trapped by the technology of my time. Yeah. I can't complete this work, but you can.
And so Tony, wasting no time in typical Tony fashion, drives all the way, drives down the coast road, picks up some strawberries
on the way, gives your man his watch.
Just trades him the watch because he didn't carry money, I guess.
Yeah.
Refuses. This is not the first time, but it's one of the times in this movie where he won't let the guy hand them to him.
Yeah, this movie is the first time that quirk is introduced.
Where he just hasn't put him down the seat. So what? Like, I think somebody said that had to, like, they were trying to make Tony Stark seem more like Howard Hughes.
Yeah, it's like a character quirk to give him.
I wish there was a thing. I wish at some point in his life, like
someone had handed him something.
There was like
what people I read a quick thing online where people were like theory crafting about this. Tony's always been handed things to sign and things like that, so he doesn't like being handed things. Always people are like, oh, give me an autograph, give me this, handing him things and things and things and things. So he just doesn't like it anymore.
I mean, that's all right,
but it's like fitting an excuse to an action that we have where Tony doesn't like being handed things.
I mean, there doesn't need to be an excuse. It's fine. He just has a quirk to him, and it's cool and it's interesting, and I like that they keep it through all the movies. Like, nobody can ever hand him anything. And sometimes it's really funny, like, they do a kind of a ring around the rosy of people handing things to other people around him. But, like, I've always, I don't know, like, I would love if there was a backstory there. It's just me. Like, it's just, like, it's not necessary whatsoever, and I completely admit that it mightn't even add anything. But I just really want it to be. Like, for example, in the first season of 24, there's an assassination in the first episode, which I'm going to spoil for you because it's the first season of 24, it's the first episode, where somebody shakes, it's an assassination attempt. Somebody shakes hands with the president, and then like walks, like it's one of those meet and greets, like shaking hands with loads of people, then walks away and like takes this film off of their hand and drops it in the trash, and it's like the midnight kiss from Firefly, where there was obviously something on the hand, and then the president suddenly collapses, and then for the whole, every time, because that president's, he's in it for the rest of that season, but he's also in the show for a while longer. And anytime you see him, he's first of all wearing this like metal band, like a copper band around his wrist, and he's got all this scarring up the side of his hand because it obviously almost killed him, but it didn't quite work. Yeah. And I don't know. I thought that'd be really cool.
He just doesn't shake hands anymore.
Somebody had just at one point tried to like poison Tony or like handed him something that
handed him a bomb or something.
Something that was going to explode. And so from then he's always had a phobia about it. Whatever. That's completely
it would have been nice.
But so he drives to Pepper, gives her the strawberries, to which she is allergic.
Back to the office.
We already went through the detail of this crazy office and they're like back and forth.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this time the actual reason why he came to the office was the model.
Do you think? I think he came. I don't know if it was just for the model. I think he came to talk to Pepper, and the model was just there.
But he left. Oh, okay. All right. But I guess I put the two together because he left immediately after seeing the model on film.
That is true. But he didn't know the model was there.
That's true because he pulls the curtain
he's
back.
Like, oh look,
he's like,
here it is. And then Black Widow's at the end of the scene. Pepper's like, "Will you talk to Tony about his effects, these things in this room. And then she's like, yeah, well, we'll make sure he takes them or whatever. And then Tony like looks at the thing and is like, wait a minute, this is important, and takes it with him.
It says there's like a plaque.
Yeah, there's a plaque.
This is the future. Or
yeah,
something?
The future is here. Something like that. Some cryptic, like very obvious to us that this is the key because we know what's going on, but it's cryptic enough that no one else would have figured it out.
But it's tantalizing enough that Tony would want to take it.
Yeah, and we get again. This scene is great for interaction between Pepper and Tony, where
they're having two completely different conversations.
Yeah, and he's really trying, and he's trying to like tell her that possibly he's dying and that he really does like her, but he can't do it because he's Tony Stark.
Yeah,
and he keeps everyone who's close to him still at arm's reach.
And I like that. I mean, we never see it on screen, but he seems to constantly be breaking up and getting back together with Pepper because in Civil War he had he gets together with her this movie.
Yeah.
Right, and then the next movie, he makes a commitment to her to
kill all the suits.
But then in Ultron, he has a suit.
Yeah.
So there's probably something going on there, and like he has that kind of banter with Thor about like his girlfriend, and he says something like basically somebody asks him like, why isn't Pepper here? And he's like, oh, she's like busy running the company. And you get the feeling that maybe
that's not why.
Yeah, maybe that's not why. And then in Civil War, there's an explicit like. There's a bit on the scroll that he's supposed to read that says, now introduce Miss Potts, but Miss Potts not there.
Yeah, she's not
there. Like, and that's, whatever about whether they're together or not, that's more important because this is a Stark thing, like a Stark Industries thing, and she's the CEO, so why, like, that she wouldn't show up to an event
something
like this.
Something serious must have happened. I really like that as well, that we only get hints of what's actually going on in their relationship.
And it would be that kind of relationship.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
They're just, but then, we get that kind of crazy finale in Spider-Man, depending on how it actually plays out. We don't see how it plays out. Like, maybe he actually proposed to her live on TV. Because he kind of put himself into a corner by, like, he wasn't expecting Peter to turn down the suit. And Peter's like, you're trying to teach me a lesson. He's like, no, there's actual... He's like, there's no reporters in there, are there? There's fucking hundreds of reporters in there. And so he has to walk out there and come up with something to tell them. And Happy throws him the ring, but like this, it's a good example of like their relationship will always be that way unless he finds a way to actually talk to her.
Yeah,
and he never seems to be able to. And it's like, I'm not saying that they're doing this in earnest. Like they're trying to, like they're really making an effort to show us the difficulties that would inevitably arise from dating a superhero.
Relationship.
But it's there. It's always there. It's in the background. It's kind of. If you're paying attention, it informs a lot. Like, the whole first act of Civil War, if you really think about it, is, like, Tony is hurting. He's, like, actively hurting. He's an exposed nerve. So, like, everything he's doing is reactionary. Like, he's not thinking things through. And he does eventually come around and start actually processing what's going on. But for the first part, he's got a broken heart. Like, he's just upset.
Yeah.
And he's not thinking clearly whatsoever. But he thinks he is, in that way, that clarity that you can only have when you're in pain.
Yeah.
And so you think, I'm in pain, so I understand
I'm
pain.
seeing clearly for the first time in a long time.
Exactly. But and this is the genesis of it, because this is the movie where they get together, and it's this whole movie is in the first movie they almost have that kiss, so it's clear that they want, like, there's an attraction.
Which there's definitely a tension there.
It could be as simple as it's Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow. If two people look like that and they're around each other a lot, of course. But in this movie, you get the feeling that, like, he values her a lot. Like, she is one of maybe two people in the whole world that he trusts, and he recognizes but could never admit to her that he can't survive without her. Like, he can't. Yeah. He couldn't make dinner without her. He can't even make an omelette, for crying out loud.
3 hours.
He's completely hopeless at everything but being Iron Man.
And she's fully aware of that as well.
Yeah, and he feels like that's the only thing he has to offer. I've built this one thing that I can be proud of, an arc reactor that powers a suit that I use to protect people. That is the only 100, like, the thing that he can just consider value. Like, this is something that adds value to my character. I know that in every other facet of my life I'm a complete fuck up, but this is something that nobody can take away from me, and so nobody will take it away from me,
because people are constantly trying.
Exactly, but this is what I have, and so this movie is about, this might be taken away from you, Tony. Like, this, with or without your consent, like, somebody smarter than you or someone as smart as you might just build something,
Yeah.
and you'll be left behind. And so not only will you die, but you'll be left behind. Like, you'll die and someone else will take over that legacy.
You'll be surpassed.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be surpassed. They will be what you grow beyond.
Yeah.
And so this is the first movie where he tries to offer Pepper that vulnerability. He can't do it. He doesn't get there in this movie.
Yeah, he tries.
He's trying. He's trying to open up to her, and he can't. And I think if he had found, like, if there was one scene where he had actually broken down and opened up to Pepper, I think that would have changed the whole movie drastically.
Yeah.
I feel like having thrown it back and forth with you now, that's what's missing is emotion, real emotion.
Yeah.
Like, not his kind of. I know it's under there, but I needed to see something.
Yeah, we get the hints that there is something in there, but we never actually see him express it or him break down fully.
It's almost like he plays it too well.
Yeah.
You know, like, because everyone's known someone in their life who seems fine, but is actually going through crazy shit you couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on with Tony Stark right now. But this is fiction. This is a film.
So
it's a visual medium. We need a visual cue that he is actually feeling this, you know?
Yeah.
Because all we're seeing, it's almost like he even does it to us. Like, it's all we're seeing is the front that he projects to everybody else.
That was my point earlier.
And
that we as an audience are taken in by the Iron Man, like, persona.
Yeah, and he literally, this is the only movie I think in the entire Marvel MCU canon where he breaks the fourth wall. He looks directly at us.
Got any more bad ideas?
Was it bad ideas or good ideas?
It was bad ideas.
Are you sure it wasn't good ideas and he says it with sarcasm?
No, it was definitely bad ideas.
Okay, it's bad ideas. Anyway, so yeah, he says that, and then
that's right before he goes
the
out to
Monaco
drive
race.
the car.
Yeah, he's like, so he does. But he's looking right at us, and I don't know, it's weird. It's
that like that felt kind of out of place. So almost out of place in the movie.
If that had been, I don't know, if he had kind of like, I don't know, tears in his eyes or something, like, just if that had been his moment of at least let us in on it. So he's never gonna let Pepper in, he's never gonna let Rhodey in, but he's gonna
let the audience in,
or even like himself.
Yeah.
You know, like we're surrogates for him or whatever, because he loves to experience himself vicariously. Like, this movie's so meta. But yeah, sorry, Pepper. They have a great bit of back and forth where she's trying to get him out of the office, and he's trying to connect with her on an emotional level.
If there wasn't such a shit show for Stark Industries going on at this time, and if like it wasn't such a terrible time for her to take over as CEO, maybe she would have noticed that he was trying to reach out to her. But she has so much shit to deal with because of him.
And she's so used to him just pestering her for no reason that this comes across like that.
Yeah.
Which is his own fault, unfortunately.
But then he drives home with the model and lays out in his underground lair. And
then Jarvis turns it into a 3D model in 10 seconds flat.
Yeah.
And he turns it perpendicular so that he can look at it eyes on.
Yeah.
And then immediately recognizes that, hey, this looks like an atom, doesn't it?
Removes the roads, the shrubbery, and then it's an atom.
All the parking structures and all the ancillary stuff.
Yeah, and just all the buildings are left, and they're like the number of protons and neutrons.
And then he makes an atom. He arranges them and they kind of 3D models an atom, which I don't know what atoms are supposed to look like, but it kind of just looked like an orb to me.
Yeah, I mean, like the nucleus, you can think of it as just an orb. The only thing I can think of for this to be is some sort of crazy atom in the island of stability, which is like if you plot the number of neutrons and protons in an atom, there's like a line, and all the normal atoms are in like the top left. And if you go like further down, like along the line, there's a theoretical island of stability where some super heavy elements would be stable, because as you go further and further down, atoms just become more and more unstable. So that could be like
the last possible.
A super heavy element somewhere in this island of stability is the only thing I can think of.
Okay. And then he goes ahead and builds a particle accelerator in his own basement.
Yep. That's what it looks like. With a sledgehammer, a jackhammer, and some winches, he builds a miniature particle accelerator in his basement.
I don't even know. I don't know how big they're supposed to be, but it doesn't feel miniature.
Some of the early ones are pretty actually not that big. And a circular one, the circular ones are better because you can speed up things more than like a linear one.
It's got a bit of a curve to it.
Yeah, like it's a circle, his one, which is a better design than a linear one, which you can only accelerate things over the one length.
Yeah.
With the circular one, you can
goes around until he gets the right speed.
But it's so like, I guess he's Tony Stark, so he can just do anything.
Although I don't like. Oh well, he has to build everything himself. That's why.
Yeah, and we get some sort of cameos of objects here, where like the prototype cap shield or like the half-constructed cap shield, which is possibly from the shield, the like box that Shield had of Howard's stuff.
I don't think it makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it was...
Cap shield is just one piece of vibranium formed into a shield. Like, it was cast.
Yeah.
So, this part has like all these plastic things.
I guess
like,
this is someone trying to make cap shield.
But why does it have all these different levels and materials?
Because I'm guessing it didn't work. Like, in reality, I think they just put it in the movie as like a nod to Captain America, which is coming.
Yeah.
But in universe, what I think is someone tried to make a replica of Cap shield and couldn't figure it out.
Okay. You studied physics.
Yeah.
What he makes this thing which fires a laser somehow out of a prism.
So a particle accelerator wouldn't be a laser. It would be like a
it
stream.
Just fires particles.
Yeah, it'd be like
accelerates them. You might say.
It would be a stream of highly accelerated particles, and that wouldn't go through like the glass wall of the thing. It just seems like this is some sort of crazy laser system instead.
Okay.
Which he then fires at a triangle, and it turns it radioactive and gives out shit tons of Cherenkov radiation and just glows blue, which is, I assume, from it ionizing the air around it.
How are atoms made?
Out of smaller atoms.
Okay, but how are elements made?
Well, like, everything started with hydrogen and just like protons and neutrons, and then they hit off each other and form hydrogen, helium, and then everything else is made from them from stars. They fuse.
So fusion.
Yeah, fusion in the center of stars to make everything else.
So Tony Stark achieved fusion.
Yes.
I mean, it's the only way to create a new element,
yeah.
right? Okay. It's fucking impossible. I mean, well, especially if it's a super heavy element, because all the super heavy elements are built in like the final moments of a supernova, right?
Yeah.
So
unless he like really cracked like particle accelerator technology, and that was actually a beam of particles and not a laser, and he had like a super heavy element there, and he was firing some other super heavy element at it, and it turned it into this new element.
Okay.
So then after that, we get Justin Hammer's golfing with
Senator
Stern, and he's like, "Oh, you gonna have them ready for the expo?"
He calls Vanko and asks.
Yeah, he calls Vanko and asks, "So you can have them ready?" And Vanko's like, "Oh no, they're not ready yet. Well, we can get them to salute, but that's it." And then I don't know why he says that, because they're completely ready for the expo. The only thing I can think of is maybe that I thought Hammer was asking Vanko if they were ready for a quick demonstration to Stern.
No, he meant for the expo.
Okay.
Because he was saying, because this is a weapons test, I need him for. He's talking about the expo. Like
okay.
Or a weapons demonstration.
Yeah. And Vanko's like, no, I guess salute.
Like this, going back to what I was saying about, like, I think his plan, I don't think he plans to survive this. He just wants to kill Tony.
And this could be a way of, again, making so that Hammer isn't aware of how ready they are.
Yeah, well, I think it's more like, Vanko recognizes he has one shot here. Well, I mean, he already had a shot, and he failed, and he expected to just die then, but then he didn't. And now he's got another shot, and once again, he's fully sure he's going to die. And he just doesn't want to, like, he's hedging his bets. He's like, I'm not even going to allow him to demonstrate, which would waste ammo. Like, I'm going to tell him all he can do is salute, and as soon as Iron Man is in place, everybody's going to open fire.
Yeah.
You know? And that's another thing, because then Justin Hammer can't warn Tony. Like, Justin Hammer can't warn anybody. Justin Hammer, as far as he's concerned, all these guys can do is salute. Like,
and then to make sure that Tony shows up, Vanko calls him. Like, Hammer like leaves some goons to watch
guard
Vanko.
Him, who cuts back to them, and they are hanging.
Yeah, they're dead instantly. Vanko's sitting there with the bird on his shoulder, and he calls Tony.
The new bird.
Yeah, the new bird. To make sure he shows up at the expo, where all of these tin soldiers are going to be. Where everybody's going to be. Yeah.
With all the new Hammer guns.
Yeah. And here we get
dance moves.
Yeah, here we get a great mirror to the opening like Iron Man Expo with its hammer, and again it's just that little bit off.
It's like your dad's doing it.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
just trying.
He's doing everything that the
hard.
cool guy is doing, but it's your dad doing it. And it's like
he's just trying too hard.
And he makes that incredible joke.
Yeah, they're running out of ink, and it's just crickets. A couple of people like.
Oh, it was a joke. Oh, I'm sorry. And yeah, so he reveals his Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force bots, which are all more or less identical.
United States Marines.
Slightly different paint jobs.
The
That's about it.
The Marines are like coloured in camo.
They got the camo, and the others just have colours. Like the Army has artillery guns, and the Navy. For some reason, the Navy has the anti-air rockets instead of the Air Force.
I mean, but they're not really anti-air rockets because they use them as like mortars.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they just fire up and over.
So I'm not really sure what the Navy have.
But anyway,
you'd expect them to be underwater stuff, or like at least amphibious.
But something I never thought about before. Well, I guess because I haven't watched this. I watched Iron Man 3, but having watched Iron Man 3 and we're watching this again, this is a mirror version of the end of Iron Man 3 because this is a bunch of enemy suits coming after Tony, who's alone.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of cool, and it never occurred to me before. It's another way in which this movie is underappreciated and overlooked.
Yeah.
It basically it had the ending that Iron Man 3 had before Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And everybody goes bananas for the Iron Man 3 ending. I mean, yes, okay, there's more like variation in the suits, they're more interesting and stuff, but like the main thing is a bunch of Iron Men show up to fight Iron Man. Like,
and here we also get the reveal of
War Machine. The War Machine
with his like full-on suit,
shoulder-mounted minigun.
There's lots more armor on it. His like forearms have all the guns in it, so they're
bulky
huge.
And chunky, yeah.
And he's got a fucking Gatling gun on his shoulder. And then Tony Stark shows up as Iron Man.
And the crowd goes wild.
More wild than anything the Hammer has elicited from them at all ever.
And the funniest part is, even at this point, Justin Hammer still hasn't figured out what's going on, because he's still trying to play it off like, Iron Man's here, it's all part of the fun. And then Tony's like, where the hell is Vanko? It's like, what are you doing here, man? What are you talking about? Like,
and we get the Rhodey's like, Tony, what the hell are you doing here? And Tony's like, you gotta trust me. Trust me for these 5 minutes. And Rhodey's like,
last time I trusted you.
Yeah. And then Vanko takes over all the
Again,
suits.
Another moment where if I felt the emotional connection between Tony and Rhodey, that'd be very compelling, you know? It's like, just please give me this trust. It's like, he never asks me to trust him, you know? Like it's just weird that for some reason that doesn't connect us.
Yeah, it's got all the like makings.
It's something we would need to go to film school to fully understand, I think, but yeah, it's got it's all there. All the ingredients are present. I don't understand why it tastes so bad.
And then we have the drone fight with the Hammeroids.
And they're all flying around. They're all flying around this enclosed area, which is actually several miles. But it's basically the same ending to Iron Man 3, where everybody's fighting over this one particular area.
Yeah. Also, this is like, Tony's like, we gotta lead them away. And then leads them slightly away, and then flies back. While they're firing Gatling guns at him, and he flies over the crowd. So many people must have died.
People dead, and if they're not dead, all of these robots shooting basically it seems like the entire Stark Expo, every building's built out of glass.
Yeah.
So like there's just glass raining from the skies, and no matter where these people run, there's glass everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we get the Spider-Man cameo.
Oh yes, the Spider-Man cameo, which I wasn't aware of until you told me.
Well, it's a retcon, I think. Like I think it was as simple as somebody on Twitter asked, is like, was that kid at the Stark Expo, he's about the age that Tom Holland would have grown up to be if these movies are chronologically accurate. And then the director's like, that's
Spider-Man.
That's it. That's Spider-Man
now.
And I guess Kevin Feige was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt. So
what it is a little boy in an Iron Man mask is trying to
repulsor blast one of the drones, and the drone, I guess, mistakes him for Iron Man because it's an idiot drone.
They're Hammer Tech drones.
But Iron Man lets the kid have his hero moment by landing next to him, blowing the thing up, and saying, "Good job, kid."
Yeah, and then flies away.
And so that kind of, not that he wouldn't anyway because it's Iron Man, but that kind of, it adds a little bit extra to when Tony Stark shows up at Tom Holland's house, at Peter Parker's house, and is like inviting him to join the team, and he's like in full hero awe mode, But so it's once again Happy is driving a woman somewhere, except this time it's he doesn't know, right? He doesn't know that she's Black Widow. He thinks he's Natalie Rushman still.
Yeah.
But she's like giving him orders, and he's loving it.
Yeah, and well, she is super competent at fighting. He knows that.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And then she gets changed in the back of the car, and he nearly crashes.
And then they break into. So like while this is all going on, there's like a passable drone fight hanging on in the air. There's like nothing super dramatic happens except for that kid getting rescued.
Yeah.
But what does happen that's interesting is we see Black Widow for the first time, really. Like she's in the Black Widow costume. She uses her like shocker things.
Yeah, she's got little like shocker discs that she throws down.
And she's like full on taking people down.
Yeah.
And leaves a guy hanging at one point.
And like she's like, Happy, wait in the car, stay at the perimeter. Happy's like, no, I'm coming in.
And he swings at the first guy, yeah, and he's just like he's locked into that fight for the rest of the whole thing. We're just watching her take down guys all across the corridor.
Yeah.
And finally he's like, yeah, I got him. He looks around and like bodies everywhere. There's a guy hanging, still choking.
These guys are just security guards.
They're
Hammer Tech security guards. They have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And from their point of view, two people are breaking into Hammer Tech's building.
Yeah, like they basically just kick down a door, the alarm goes off, the guy's like, hey, stop. Happy punches the guy in the face apropos of nothing. Doesn't even take a second to go, oh, sorry, we're looking for a Russian that your guy is holding hostage.
Yeah.
No, just beats the shit out of the guy. She, like, takes down everyone else in the corridor. That guy is hanging by his neck from the ceiling. He's gonna die. They don't, like, there's no, like, funny thing later where you see him drop down from that on the floor, choking, like, oh, God, what a bitch. Like, as far as we're concerned, she walks down the corridor with him still hanging behind her.
Unless Happy goes over and, like, grabs him around the waist and holds it up, he's gonna die.
Yeah, and these guys... They just work here. And even, like, Hammer's not an evil guy. He literally, he rescued the guy who tried to kill Tony Stark and tried to get him to make better suits.
But he's doing that
for the US government.
For the US government.
Yeah, he's got a contract.
His company and the US government.
Yeah, he's not, like...
He's not evil. He's at most that's like corporate espionage, sort of.
Not even corporate espionage. It is illegal what he did.
I did break someone out of prison.
He broke someone out of prison and had him working for him as more or less an indentured servant. But like, I wouldn't consider him the bad guy. Vanko is the bad guy,
Vanko's
right?
the bad guy.
The Hammer is just a guy, and more importantly, the guys who work for Hammer are just jobbing. Like this is just their paycheck.
They probably get paid minimum wage.
Yeah, they have like families at home and shit. Like I know the movies at this point when it gets into this part, like it's breakneck. Like, the pace is just straight up there. But like, you know, just stop and consider this. You know, they just took down an entire... There's like 12 guys in there, and they do look like bad guys. They're all wearing black. They're all huge, like wrestler-looking motherfuckers. But
that's what security guards look like.
That's what you hire for. And I'm not sure. I'm on board with that. And I mean, it does. I wouldn't put it past Black Widow.
Yeah, it fits
being
with
the
their
kind
character.
of amoral, like I'm just trying to get the job done kind of person.
If I don't get past these guys, more people are going to die.
Yeah, but it unsettled me.
Yeah. And then they get to the control room, and it turns out Vanko's not there. He's gone.
Yeah, he tricked them.
Yeah, but Black Widow's able to reset Rhodey's suit. And we get a call between Pepper
it's an accidental three-way call.
An accidental conference call between Pepper, Black Widow, and Tony.
Yeah. And
Tony says that he's dying.
Well,
or someone says that he's dying.
Black Widow accidentally lets it, or either Black Widow accidentally says it, or Tony, thinking he's just talking to Black Widow, says it.
Yeah.
And then Pepper puts in.
You're dying?
You're dying? I didn't know you were dying.
Yeah. And so that's the only way that Tony can tell people close to him that he's dying is by accident.
And then, so Rhodey gets his suit reset, and they have a quick argument over who should stand where, who's the big gun.
Yeah, who's the bigger gun.
And while they're arguing, the Hemorrhoids land and surround them while they're in the kill box, or the kill zone, or whatever it was.
The crossfire zone. You do not want to be here.
And then, they fight him. They're War Machine uses all of his guns, and then...
This is another example of how the suits sounded heavy, they didn't feel heavy. All the Hemorrhoid suits, they landed, they sounded impressive, but there wasn't any, impact from it. There's no repercussions to them landing on, soft dirt or anything like that. They just landed and were fine.
That's true, yeah. They didn't shift the ground at all.
Yeah.
They always made a point of when Iron Man landed, the ground would crack beneath them or something.
Exactly.
In the first movie,
and so in this movie, the suits, to me, just didn't feel as heavy as an Iron Man suit should feel, I think.
I wonder, was that just the director not doesn't have the same eye for detail, or is there a financial motivator there? Like, is it for some reason more expensive to do it that way?
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, no, you're right. It definitely did feel like the suits didn't have the same kind of visceral impact.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're in this kill box, and they, not that it matters, because they take down like the hemorrhoids are made out of paper mache or something. Like he tears them apart. He tears them apart with like the SMG attached to his wrist.
Yeah, like. I don't know how the Hammer company is a military contractor when all of their technology is terrible, or just other people's technology sellotaped together.
But anyway, Tony ends the fight with the first use of the one-use lasers that he uses again in the Avengers. I think maybe he used them in Iron Man 3, I can't remember. But
definitely in the Avengers at least.
He turns them on, spins around, everybody's dead.
Yep.
Stark Industries needs to fucking R&D these lasers, right? Or at the very least, like, it seems whenever he uses them, right, something pops up.
Yeah, there's like a little energy cell.
There's like a cartridge. So like, fucking make 1,000 of those cartridges. Why do you have all these missiles and rockets and like repulsors and all these hidden flares and stuff? Just fill all of that space with cartridges for that laser.
Yeah.
And end every fight immediately.
Jesus, you cutting holes in everything.
But yeah, it's like a laser inspired by the very thing that created the chess piece.
Yeah.
It's like, just go through anything. If you can make that, like, that would end every fight.
Yeah. And then we get Vanko in his proper Whiplash armor, although he's never ever called Whiplash.
That's true. But he does have a whip.
He has 2 whips. And he comes down. It's like the Hammer suits, but with the added on whips out of it. But these ones
he's inside.
These ones are better because they've got like mechanical roll-ups or like motor roll-ups, so you can pull people in. Like you can Scorpion pulls War Machine in at one point.
Get over here.
And then,
as established, they use the the
repulsor effect across the beams to defeat him. It's a very short fight.
It's a very short fight, and I think it makes sense that it's a very short fight because he tries to fight them at their level.
On their terms.
Yeah, he wants to put his suit against Tony's suit and see who wins.
And his suit is just a Hammer suit.
Yeah, like his
with
suit
a person inside it.
Substandard materials, and he does have the whips, but Tony, like in the first time he fought Tony with the whips, he was fighting a sort of lesser version of the armor.
Yeah.
And now Tony has his most recent version.
Yeah, even if it is slightly battle damaged, it's still the most recent.
And of course he's also got to deal with War Machine.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, I'm pretty sure this was always a kamikaze mission for Ivan because there's such a look of certainty and relief on his face when Tony sees that he's bested him and he's looking up and he's like, I win.
No, he's like, you lose.
Or you lose, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, they're sitting there smiling, he's like, you lose.
Yeah, and because I'm pretty sure he always knew this was how it was going to end. Like, he wasn't going to be able to beat Tony toe-to-toe, but he definitely wanted to go toe-to-toe with Tony.
Yeah,
and then he wanted
his legacy, or like, have an impact on his legacy.
Yeah, pull the rug out from under him by, like, showing the world that I built my own suit and I killed Iron Man. And I died to do it, but whatever.
Yeah, if I could do it, anyone could do it.
And then you get the cool Neo saves Trinity scene of like he looks around and realizes that all of these hemorrhoids are about to go supernova, and he's immediately like a dog, his neck turns and he's like pepper. Launches and he's going for it.
Yeah.
And he has that. It's the same. It's literally. It looks exactly like the scene where Neo saves Trinity, where he's going so fast the world is blurring around him, and then he's just like stop, land, grab, take off.
No, I really liked how it's like he's going real fast. Immediately, like, stops,
breaks himself.
Breaks, stops, grabs her real gently, and then shoots off again.
Because they never, like, in so many, like, in Superman, whenever he catches Lois, he'll just swoop and catch, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you caught someone at that speed,
bisected into three.
you would just break her. I loved it. It was, like, such a simple moment. I probably didn't understand it when I saw the movie first time, like, the actual physics of it, but I loved that he stopped. Like, it adds so much more to that kind of, he's in absolute desperation mode, but he still remembers, like, I can't just launch into her. I have to stop and catch her.
Yeah, like in X-Men, it's First Class or the one after First Class?
Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past with Quicksilver, and he's breaking out Magneto. Puts his hand on
Whiplash.
Whiplash. And then, he's gone. Because like these are considerations you have to take into effect.
Yeah, if you can't accelerate a stationary body to 90 miles an hour from nothing with no safety precautions. But yeah, so the Vanko kamikazes himself
and all the drones.
Basically destroys Stark Expo because there's drones everywhere. But he manages to save Pepper, and they go land on a roof and again have another one of those conversations where they're both saying different things, but they're both kind of trying to get at the same meaning, and eventually, and they're both subtly moving closer and closer together. And finally they just kiss because like everyone's been waiting for that to happen. And then you realise that actually Rhodey's also on his roof.
He's been sitting on this roof the entire time.
I was here first. This is my roof. Get your own.
Such great lines.
Yeah.
Like you look like two seals fighting over a grape.
Over a grape. Rhodey.
Get a roof, and then Tony's like, "You're gonna have to give back that suit." He's like, "I'm not giving back the suit," and he just flies away.
No. He says, "I'm gonna." When he's done, like Tony turns to him and he says, "I'm gonna hang out of the suit for a minute, all right?" And Tony's like, I think Tony's about to answer, or maybe he does answer. He says something, and then War Machine cuts him off, and he goes, "I wasn't asking." Takes off. It's my suit now.
Yeah, and then we cut to a room where S.H.I.E.L.D. is set up, and they have some like glass.
Before that, I just wanted to take this opportunity, since this is the last time you see Pepper in the movie. I think more of the MCU characters should have a Pepper. Should have a human being who is fragile, who like Vision. It looks like Vision and Scarlet Witch are gonna have a thing, but like I'm never gonna worry about their relation. Yeah, like they're both functionally immortal.
Yeah, she can bend reality, and he is the personification of one of the Infinity Stones. So
yeah, but there's something about Tony and Pepper, and I mean it's very, I don't know, like traditional. It's probably chauvinistic or whatever, but it doesn't have to be a girlfriend, like
a normal human person.
Yeah, just someone he cares about, who is not a hero, who is not connected to any of that. Who actually, she has a bit of disdain for all that. And it's not, a lot of people dislike her, and I think maybe they just dislike Gwyneth Paltrow. And I don't think she's like a harpy. I don't think it doesn't feel like she nags him to give up the Iron Man thing. Like it's clear that she wants to, and she doesn't try to hide the fact that she wants to, like, she would like him to be safe.
Yeah. Because like she literally says, "My body cannot handle the stress of this." Yeah,
like this is way too much. And the thing is, he's been living at this speed his entire life.
Yeah.
She's never, like, she's only touched this tempo every once in a while. Like, she's just not built for it.
Yeah.
But it's just, as the series gets more and more outlandish, like Thor Ragnarok was just obscene.
So everywhere.
Yeah. And it's only going to get more. Like, it's only going to get greater and greater. And as the perspective keeps widening, I feel like it's going to become more and more important to ground these characters, to give them something that will bring them back down to earth.
Yeah.
And like, I completely understand why Natalie Portman didn't want to stay in the series. And I'm not trying to say that every superhero needs a girlfriend for someone to kidnap, but like,
just like regular people that they care about.
Yeah, just like a connection to the place that they're fighting for. So like Tony Stark. Everything about Tony Stark's personal. Like, Tony Stark says he wants to create an armor around the world or whatever, but really he's worried about his own impact on the world. Like, it's very narcissistic. No matter what he's doing, it's very personal. His motivations are very clear and personal.
Yeah.
Whereas with Captain America, his motivations are very general. They're very altruistic. It's like a general altruism towards all mankind.
Yeah. He's just like a paragon of humanity.
Exactly. And that's fine, but like, it's very difficult to relate to in human terms, because he's a man out of time. He was fought in World War II. He understands the depths to which people are capable of sinking.
Yeah.
And that's a perspective that not many people are going to be able to share. And also, there's just something very, like, I like Captain America more, but I connect to Iron Man more.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something. Well, he is human. Like, he's the only, weirdly, even though Captain America is the most sort of visibly human character, Iron Man is the most human because he's just human. There's actually nothing about him, because even his chest piece has been removed now, so he's just a guy.
Yeah.
Like, and he's weirdly, because it's weird to think of him that way because he projects this huge image,
this superhuman persona.
Yeah, but he's actually the only human member of the Avengers.
Well, Black Widow.
But is she a member of the Avengers, or does she sometimes help the Avengers? Like, I know she has a code name and everything, but I'm not sure if because Hawkeye and Black Widow work for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Like, they're S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
Yeah.
Whereas the Avengers are a group of special individuals. You know, like when the scene where he's like, there was an idea once. And the cards on the table.
Yeah.
Cards on the table. But the people sitting around that table, to me, are the Avengers.
Okay,
which is like, that's, it's Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and Captain America. At least that's what I think Nick Fury considers to be the Avengers.
Yeah.
And he's like the only, I can't remember, like, I'm so far since the point that I was making that I'd forgotten what it was.
But he's the only.
But yeah, so I think the thing, ironically, since I've been arguing against his humanity this whole time, because he doesn't display any emotion, I still feel like he's the most human because of Pepper. Because Pepper, no matter what, because she doesn't see she's the only person who doesn't see him as Iron Man. Even Rhodey kind of plays into it, like,
she just sees him as Tony.
He's just Tony, and Tony's an idiot. Like, he wouldn't brush his teeth if it didn't remind him, that kind of thing.
Can't cook eggs, can't brush his teeth.
And it's the same. That I think that's the reason why I use Peter Quill as the example. Peter Quill, to me, is not part of the Avengers yet, obviously, but he's just so human.
Yeah,
it's probably the most human character.
For someone not having grown up on Earth for most of his life, he's exceedingly just a regular dude. I guess
70s music is all you need to be human. But yeah, there's just something so identifiably so much silence right there. Just something so identifiably human about him. I'm trying to think of something other than human to say, because I've said human so many times. But like, it's just so much easier to empathize, for me to empathize with Peter Quill and Tony Stark
over Captain America.
And like but to me, Captain America is a hero, you know.
Yeah.
But not someone. I don't think I would find it easy to have a conversation with him. You know what I mean? Like, if I was to sit down and talk to him, I don't think we would connect really well.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas if I have to sit down and talk with Peter Quill, I know we would be best friends. If I sit down and talk with Tony Stark, maybe we wouldn't be best friends, but I feel like we'd get along, we'd banter, you know?
Yeah.
And as the universe becomes more and more fantastic, and they're about to get the X-Men back, and they're probably going to get Fantastic Four, and like...
Oh, yeah, everything?
Everything's about to get so much more cosmic.
Yeah.
It's going to become more and more important, I think, for them to find a way to ground their heroes and give us reasons to empathize with them, and
show us reasons why they are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Why they're risking their lives and doing all of this for the little guy.
Yeah, and it needs to be something more than a philosophical altruism. Like, it needs to be something demonstrable. It's something that we can see on screen.
Yeah.
Like I've been saying, this movie on paper is the perfect Iron Man movie, but I didn't see it on screen. I didn't see his emotion on screen, so I didn't connect with them, so I didn't connect with the movie.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why, even though I find Steve Rogers to be less than human, or like more than human, or like not human, like not somebody I can empathize with or connect with. So in the same way that I was arguing that we couldn't see it in Iron Man, with Captain America you see it. You know, like, it's, even though his will to act comes from like a deep-seated belief in truth, justice, and the American way, like just these kind of esoteric beliefs that, you know, it means nothing to me.
Almost propaganda-esque beliefs in...
But I relate to Captain America because I see the experiences Steve Rogers has, and I empathize with him.
Yeah.
And the problem going forward is, as Steve Rogers' experiences move away from letting go of his long lost love, Peggy Carter, and disconnecting with his friend Bucky.
Bucky, who was a normal person but is now the Winter Soldier. Yeah,
and will always kind of have that hanging over his head, because Hydra's never going to go away. Like, they'll just keep bringing that back for the rest of the time. As it moves away from that and towards, there's like an intergalactic space brute gonna show up to reclaim his stones, to put them in his magic golden fist,
to destroy the
to destroy all of everything,
possibly all reality.
It's gonna be harder and harder to relate to and connect with the heroes that are fighting to protect us from those threats, because suddenly it's in the same way that bands that play, like, so every band's first couple of albums are full of songs that are really relatable and about real life, and then 6 albums later, all they've done in the last 15 years is tour. Just playing shows, having the rock star lifestyle, living in hotels, and suddenly they're writing songs that you can't connect to anymore. Of course you can't, because they no longer live the life you used to.
Completely different experience.
Yeah, and it's the same thing here. Like, as we're sort of coming to the end of the birth of the MCU, and we're getting to like the awkward teenage years or whatever, where they're gonna move off onto their shaky legs, like with these like crazy far out concepts, and I can't wait to see like
them all tied together. Yeah,
this cosmic gallery of just like, characters from all these different Marvel properties coming together and fighting crazy threats from all over the place. Like the Skrulls will probably show up at some point. But when that starts happening, and when like even something as simple as when the fights start taking place in space.
It's going to be weird.
Yeah, when they start moving away from Earth, which has to happen eventually. You can't, like, if every goddamn bad guy comes to Earth to destroy New York, it's going to get relentlessly dull. But as that starts happening, and the stakes get higher and higher and higher, and the conflicts become more and more grander. Yeah, it's the scale.
All encompassing.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be important for them to remember that. The reason why these people are fighting is pepper. Like that's
people like pepper.
Yeah,
I really hope that they do smaller scale movies, as well as having the like grand Infinity War style movies. I want them to have small scale superhero movies, like say Logan, where it's not a world ending event every time. It's just like a little personal conflict or something like that, where there are also superheroes involved.
Yeah,
something like that to ground the series as it goes on.
Kind of like the way the Star Wars is going, where they're going to have the kind of through line of huge movies, and then there'll be like these offshoots of like, here's just Rogue One. I know Rogue One was huge and important stuff, but like I think the next one's Solo, which is just going to be about Han used to be a smuggler. I mean, I assume he's not going to save an entire planet or something. He's just going to smuggle.
It might. I think it might be is the story of how he gets the Falcon.
Oh, that'd be cool. But didn't he just win it in a card game or something?
Well, he says he wins it in a card game, but I imagine there's more to it than that.
No good two-timing. So we finally have a name, which was...
Saturated Industry.
Saturated Industry. So the Saturated Industry podcast, technically episode 4, but really episode 3.
Yeah. So now, rankings of this film with the rest of them.
I'm going to put these... so what do we have so far? It's Iron Man's number 1, Hulk number 2?
Hulk number 2, and then Iron Man number
2. So you would put it third?
No, I'm debating. I think I would put it above Hulk. I enjoyed it more than Hulk.
Yeah?
I don't know where to put it in relation to Iron Man 1. It's a tough call.
I feel like I keep saying, I think it is a better movie on paper.
Yeah.
I think it does a lot more things right. No, it doesn't actually. Sorry, they don't do loads of things right. But I do think it's a much deeper character study. A lot more happens. Better villain.
Yeah. Better villain than
much more compelling villain. Like I think Jeff Bridges played his villain better. Not that Mickey Rourke did a bad job. I just think maybe he didn't get the tone.
Yeah, he felt slightly out of tone.
Or maybe when everyone in the world is telling you you're wrong and you know you're right, they move. So it's like maybe everybody else should have like brought it down a bit or up a bit or whatever. But either way, it just something about it didn't work.
Yeah.
And so on paper, I would have given it to
Iron Man 2.
But in practice, Iron Man 1, I definitely enjoyed more.
I think I'm the same. Iron Man 1, then Iron Man 2, then the Hulk.
So that'll be our ranking for the time being.
Yeah, and as we go on, we'll keep adding to this ranking.
And moving things up and down.
Yeah,
and I don't know,
maybe positions.
Maybe we'll have like, as we're putting up the SoundCloud, I think you can put up a picture. We can just have this changing every time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Saturated Industry. I'm never going to remember that.
Saturated Industry Podcast.
Saturated Industry Podcast.
We are in one hell of an industry.
Technically episode 4. Thanks for listening.